And even after the introduction of VAT, input tax was given, or input tax credit was given only to the taxes paid to the state. That means in Karnataka, if first seller has collected tax and paid, then second seller will get input tax of tax paid at the first purchase point. But whatever the taxes were levied by the central government, it may be customs duty, it may be service tax, it may be central excise duty, there was no cross input tax. And similarly, there was no cross input tax of VAT levied by the states. And at the same time, there was CST, Central Sales Tax Act, administered by states. Whatever tax was levied, it was collected and appropriated by the states. But still, there was no input tax because CST was levied origin based. That means when goods are leaving one state, that transaction was taxed in the origin state. So the recipient state was not allowing any input tax because taxes were collected by the origin state. So it was creating cascading effect. And another major contributor for cascading effect was central excise duty. Whenever goods were manufactured, central excise duty was levied. States, when they were levying VAT. The assessable value was basic value and central excise duty. That means VAT was levied on central excise duty also, and in some cases where the goods were sourced from outside the states, CST was also a part of it. So there was a cascading effect, and we all know the cascading effect, it affects our export prices. Our export price will become high, so our exports will be incompetitive in the international market. So in this background, when GST, our country went to GST, we had central GST and state GST. State GST portion is going to state government and central GST is going to central government. Whenever there is an interstate transaction, the tax rate will remain same. It will put together CGST plus SGST, that we are calling integrated GST, integrated goods and service tax. But the very paradigm shift in GST is we have switched over from origin based taxation to destination based taxation. So now wherever goods or services are consumed, the tax is transferred to that zone or that geographical part of the country. So we are telling there is a seamless flow of input tax credit now. Whether the goods and services are received from any corner of the country, there will not be any hindrance in claiming input tax credit. Once again, there are some limitations. For example, a tax SGST or a state GST paid cannot be utilized for adjusting central GST, and similarly CGST cannot be offset for SGST, whereas both can be utilized for making payment of IGST, and IGST can be utilized for making payment of CGST and SGST. So with this background, I will move to my presentations. So let us have a glance of the sections which we mainly deal with input tax credit. It is a definition sections, that is section 2. Then we have section 9, that is charging section. Then we have section 10, that is our composition levy. Then we have section 16, which is very important for input tax. Then section 17, which puts restrictions or ineligible input tax. Then section 18, which allows input tax under special circumstances. Then we have section 25 for registration linked. Then section 74, we have fraudulent assessment or determination of taxation. Then section 129 and 130. 129 is mainly related to road vigilance. Whenever goods carrying vehicles are intercepted by the CGST or SGST officers, action taken, penalty levied will be under section 129. And if it is with an intention of evading tax, then directly it will be confiscated under section 130. So these are the major sections where we deal with input tax. Why I have taken 129 and 130? Well, I will come to the points. So section 262 of section 2, it defines input tax. What is an input tax? So input tax means central tax, state tax, integrated tax, union territory tax, charged on any supply of goods or services or both made to him, and it includes the integrated goods and service tax charged on the import of goods. So whenever goods are imported, customs duty is levied. In addition to customs duty, integrated goods and service tax, IGST, is levied. So this is the replacement of what we were having previously, additional customs duty, which was called as countervailing duty, CV duty. So that has been replaced with IGST. That is also eligible for input tax wherever those goods and services are utilized in furtherance of business. The tax payable under the provisions of subsection 3 and 4 of section 9. This is mainly reverse charge mechanism, tax paid under reverse charge mechanism. On that we are dealing in detail. The tax payable under the provisions of subsection 3 and 4 of section 5 of IGST Act. The tax payable under the provisions of subsections of 3 and 4 of CGST Act. So section 2 and 63. What is an input tax credit? Input tax credit means the credit of input tax under ideal GST. Credit should follow seamlessly throughout supply chain. That means all taxes paid on inputs, goods or services, including capital goods, would be available as credit, resulting in reduction of the tax. That is not really true. Under GST Act, there are several restrictions on availing input tax credit. There are not several. Broadly, as I told previously, SGST should be utilized for making payment of SGST or IGST. Similarly, CGST should be utilized for making payment of CGST or IGST, and IGST can be utilized for making payment of IGST, CGST or SGST. But we have certain restrictions. So let me go through those restrictions. What are the restrictions in availing input tax credit? Levy and collection. As I told, section 9 is a charging section where we have a mechanism called reverse charge mechanism. 9(3) says the government may, on the recommendation of the council by notification, specify categories of supply of goods or services or both, tax on which shall be levied, paid on reverse charge basis by the recipient of such goods or services. In normal circumstances, whenever goods or services are supplied by a dealer or supplier or a taxpayer, tax is collected by the supplier and it is paid to the government. But under some special circumstances, the goods and services received by a recipient. So here, recipient will be paying the taxes on those receipts. Then section 4 is similar to the 9(3), but here category of dealers are fixed for collecting and making payment of tax. Then we have composition levy. Under composition levy, there is no input tax credit because the goods and services has to be paid at the fixed rate by a class of dealer who are permitted to maintain simple books of accounts and pay the tax on the outward supply term. So section 16, section 16 puts conditions. What are the conditions to claim input tax credit or eligibility to take the input tax credit? Every registered person shall, subject to such conditions and restrictions as may be prescribed and in the manner specified in section 49. The section 49 prescribes how tax has to be paid from credit ledger and cash ledger, and be entitled to take credit of input tax charged on any supply of goods or services or both to him which are used or intended to be used in the course or furtherance of his business, and the said amount shall be credited to the electronic credit ledger. The GST is very broad to that extent. It says if those goods or services or both are utilized in furtherance of his business. since the furtherance of his business is very wide, the scope is very wide. So their input tax credit paid or the taxes paid at the previous stage can be utilized as input tax, and it will be credited to the electronic credit ledger of the dealer. So section 16.2 puts the conditions. What are the conditions to claim input tax credit? It says, it starts with no registered person shall be entitled to the credit of any input tax in respect of any supply of goods or services or both to him unless the first condition is he is in possession of a tax invoice or debit note issued by a supplier registered under this act or such other tax paying document as may be prescribed. See, tax invoice is the basic document which is must for claiming input tax credit. Second condition is he has received the goods or services both. So when the person is claiming input tax, at that time goods or service goods should be in his custody and he should have received the services. The tax charged in respect of such supply has been actually paid to the government. See, this is very important condition. That means the seller or the supplier who is collecting the tax has to pay the tax to the government, then only the recipient is eligible to claim input tax. He has furnished the return under section. So then section 16.4. So this is a very important section here. A condition is a registered person shall not be entitled to take input tax credit in respect of any invoice or debit note for supply of goods or services or both after the due date of furnishing of the return under section 39 for the month of September following the end of the financial year. See, under GST, we don't have any revised return concept. We had revised return concept under Sales Tax Act. We were having revised return under VAT, KVAT Act, where 6 months time was there to revise a return. But since GST is a transaction-based taxation system, where the input and output is determined based on each transaction, so there is the revised return concept has been done away with. So, but we are having a provision so that a recipient can claim input tax till the last date of filing the September return of the next financial year. So please note here, if a dealer wants to revise his April return, he cannot revise the April return, but any input tax credit left over pertaining to the purchases made, inward receipts of April of this year can be claimed up till the October 20th of next financial year. So the dealer is getting more than 20 months for the month of April. It gradually goes on decreasing. For the month of March, it will be just 6 months. But again, for next financial year, April, it will be next month, September, date of filing of return of September. Please note, it is not the return filing of September. It is the due date of filing of September return. So it is not dynamic. It is fixed. So if you delay the return filing of September beyond October 20, you are not eligible to claim the input tax credit. So that is the reason we are issuing the notices to the dealer who have claimed beyond this due date. We have claimed input tax beyond this due date. That means they have filed return belatedly beyond that date and they have claimed the input tax pertaining to those periods. We'll get into the detail. Timeline for availing ITC. Credit must be taken before the filing date of September return, as I told. That is 20th October. The filing date for annual return of the next financial, if filed earlier, so this is for annual return filing. Then we'll go to the section 17 that is apportionment of input tax credit. So when the goods are or services are utilized for manufacturing of only exempted goods, if they are utilized for manufacturing of part exempted goods, partly taxable goods, so how input tax has to be utilized, what are the restriction, what is the ineligible input tax, all these have been defined under section 17. So partly for the purpose of business and partly for other purposes, partly affecting taxable supplies and partly affecting exempt supplies. The amount of credit shall be restricted to so much of the input tax as it is attributable. A banking or non-banking financial institution have the option to comply under section 17(2) or avail the 50% of ITC eligible. They can calculate as per the section 17(2) and the rules, or they can flatly they can take 50% of ITC, 50% they have to forego. Value of exempt supply includes supply without GST, RCM, transaction in securities, sale of land, building, subject to conditions. Notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1 of section 16 and subsection 1 of section 18, motor vehicles and other conveyances except when they are used for making the following taxable goods. See, if you are purchasing motor vehicles and if you want to claim input tax credit as furtherance business, no, you are not eligible. Only under such circumstances like further supply of such vehicles or conveyance, that means you should be the supplier of those motor vehicles or conveyances, then you can claim input tax. Transportation of passenger or imparting training or driving, flying, navigation such vehicles or conveyances for transportation of goods. That means if you are a GTA, goods transport agency, you can claim input tax credit. Otherwise, motor vehicles are not eligible as per section 17(5) of the GST Act. Credit disallowed means disallowed on means of transport. ITC available if involved in buying and selling, uses them for training like driving and flying, transportation of goods. These are the cases where ITC is eligible. GST credit paid on vehicles used for business purposes, it is allowed in other countries. In India, no. Reason, there is a thin line differentiation between personal and business use of motor vehicle as they are not in fixed place. Section 17(b). The following supply of goods or services are both food and beverages, outdoor catering, beauty treatment, health services, cosmetic and plastic surgery, except where an inward supply of goods or services or both of a particular category is used by a registered person for making an outward supply of the same category of goods or services. See, if you are running a business, you are conducting a meeting of your board, office bearers, and for that meeting is for furtherance of business. But if you are ordering food and beverages supply and the supplier is charging GST, you cannot claim input tax on that. If you are conducting a meeting outside your office in a resort or in a hill station and you are claiming input tax on the expenditure made there, no doubt that meeting is for furtherance of business, but you cannot take input tax credit. Likewise, beauty treatment, health services and all, unless the outward supply is also of same category of goods and services. Expenditures on food and beverages, outdoor catering charges consumed by individuals or employees for whatever purpose will not qualify for credit. And similarly, beauty treatments, dentist, cosmetics. The services are very rarely associated with core business activities, except in case of a few professionals like cinema artists, models, etc. Then section 17(5)(b)(2), membership of a club, health and fitness center, companies by corporate membership for its employees, however, ITC is not allowed. 17(5)(b)(3), rent a cab, life insurance and health insurance, except where the government notifies the services which are obligatory for an employer to provide to its employees under any law for the time being in force, or such inward supply of goods or services or both of a particular category is used by a registered person for making an outward taxable supply, then it is eligible. Otherwise, no. You cannot claim input tax on inward supply of these services. Then 17(5)(b), travel benefits extended to employees on vacation such as leave or home travel. The company or a business may be providing travel benefits, tours, home travel concessions, whatever GST is charged by travel agencies for those employees, you cannot claim, the company cannot claim input tax credit on that. Then 17(5)(c), works contract services when supplied for construction of an immovable property other than plant and machinery, except where it is an input service for further supply of works contract. So this is a very important restriction. And some people have had some confusion when GST was introduced that works contract services, no input tax credit can be utilized by when it is provided by subcontractor. No, it clearly says except where it is an input service for further supply of works contracting service. So if there is a contractor and he gives it a part of work to subcontract, then it is the same work. So whatever subcontractor charges GST when a supply is made to main contractor can claim input tax on the same. But a company has given contract to a contractor to construct a building, a factory, which is an immovable property, which becomes an immovable property subsequently, that company cannot claim GST paid on works contract services provided by the contractor. So similarly, construction of commercial complex, it attracts GST, but input tax on the goods and services utilized in construction of commercial complex is not allowed, though the renting of the commercial space is liable for GST. Then we will go to ITC blocking and ITC restrictions. After introduction of GST, with some trial and errors, we came to, because our GST R1, R2 and R3, they have not become fully functional. So a via media mechanism was evolved. So 3B was introduced right from the beginning and it is still going on. So it is an ad hoc mechanism to claim input tax. It is not directly linked to the R1 of other dealers. I mean, the 2A of the dealer who is filing 3B or claiming input tax. So they were claiming input tax on ad hoc basis based on the invoices they are having, goods they have received. But there were some cases where excess input tax was claimed. So the rule 86A was brought in. So it empowers the tax authorities to block input tax credit of recipients in following cases where credit available is considered as ineligible or fraudulently availed. So we came across a lot of fraudulent activities after the introduction of GST. Input tax was claimed based on fraudulent transactions where goods are not actually made, supplied, only invoices were raised and R1 were uploaded by the supplying dealers, and input tax was utilized, and it was fraudulently utilized for clearing the actual goods. So the authorities were empowered to block such transactions. Where supplier found non-existent or not conducting business from registered place of business. Taxes not paid to the government treasury, that is, the supplier has not paid GST against the prescribed document on which recipient available ITC Act. See, this goes as per the section 16, provisions of section 16, which I did previously. While claiming input tax, the supplier should actually pay the taxes to the government. Recipient availed ITC without receipt of goods or services or goods. So this is also the condition. This is as per section 16. Recipient is not in possession of tax invoice, debit note or any other document as prescribed under Rule 36. Procedure to restrict ITC, input tax credit, under Rule 86A. Authorized officer will record reason in writing and block ITC available to the recipient. See, this we are doing, our officers are doing at the back end, and it will restrict the ITC available in the credit ledger of the dealer, or the supplier or a taxpayer. Recipient is not allowed to utilize available ITC for discharge of any liability under Section 49 or claim refund of unutilized amount in his electronic credit ledger. In case recipient submit proof or documentary evidence, if authorized officer satisfied that the conditions for blocking credit are no longer exist, he can allow or unblock the ITC. See, it is not one-way process. It is always a rectifiable procedure where authorized officer can unblock the ITC whenever satisfactory explanation with evidences have been provided. The restriction on utilization of ITC under Rule 86A will cease to effect after the expiry of a period of 1 year from the date of imposing such restrictions. 1 year from the date of such restrictions. Then we have circular number 123 of 42 2019, GST dated 11/11/2019, restrictions in availment of input tax under Rule 36(4). See, why this was introduced is as I told, our GST return filing system is not fully functional. Otherwise, based on the R1 and R2 of a dealer, the GSTR3 was automatically generated. It should have been automatically generated, but we have 3B concept now. So where the dealer is claiming input tax on ad hoc basis. I mean, whatever he calculates manually and it is claimed in the 3B return. So quite a few dealers were claiming more input tax than what it is available in their 2A. So this provision was brought in. So availment of restricted credit in terms of sub-rule 4 of Rule 36 shall be done on self-assessment by the taxpayers. They are doing it on self-assessment basis. Restriction of availment of ITC is imposed only in respect of those invoices, debit notes, details of which are required to be uploaded by the suppliers under subsection 1 of Section 37. That is GSTR 1 of the supplier, which will be visible in the 2A of the dealer, which have not been uploaded. So when the supplier has not uploaded the invoices in his R1, it is not visible, not available in the 2A of the dealer. So dealer cannot claim input tax on those goods. Taxpayers may avail full ITC in respect of IGST paid on import, document issued under RCM, credit received from ISD, etc. Because in these conditions, the taxes are paid under RCM basis or ISD, except ISD. So input can be claimed without having it in 2A, which are outside the ambit of Section 1 of Section 37, provided that the eligibility conditions of availing ITC are met in respect of the same. Restrictions of Section 36(4) will be applicable only on the invoices, debit notes on which credit is availed after 9/10/2019. Then restriction imposed is not supplier wise, it is on consolidated basis. Total eligible ITC from all supplies whose details have been uploaded by the suppliers in GSTR1. So calculation would be based on only those invoices which are otherwise eligible for ITC. See, if in my 2A, I am a dealer, in my 2A, I am having 100 rupees worth of input tax, and I have some input tax invoices for which my suppliers have not uploaded R1, or those invoices are not visible in my 2A, but in spite of that, I can claim ITC of 120% of whatever input tax available in my 2A. So 20% excess is allowed. Amount of ITC in respect of invoices or debit notes whose details have not been uploaded, eligible ITC available to the recipient in respect of invoices or debit notes, the details of which have been uploaded by the suppliers. Balance ITC may be claimed by the taxpayer in any of the succeeding months, provided details of requisite invoices are uploaded by the suppliers, provided that credit on invoices, the details of which are not uploaded under subsection 1 of Section 37 remains under 20% of the eligible input tax credit, the details of which are uploaded. So it is not static, it is dynamic, because the 2A is a dynamic, it gets on uploaded by whenever the suppliers upload invoices in their R1. So whenever invoices are available in subsequent months, the dealer can avail input tax on the same. As per notification number 75 of 2019, that is 26/12/2019, it is substituted with 10%. So now it is restricted to 10%. 110% of the input tax available in 2A. So this is the calculation which has been given. Under three circumstances, it has been calculated. See, I am having invoices involving ITC of 6 lakh as on the due date. So at 10%, 60,000 for those 2 months. 20%, 1,20,000, and after that, from January 2020, it is 60,000, 10%. Under second, at serial number 2, suppliers have furnished Form GSTR 180 invoices involving ITC of 7 lakh. So I can claim input tax of 1,40,000. That is 7 lakh plus 1,40,000. 8,40,000 input tax I can claim. 20%. At 10% rate it is. So now it is 10% only. So now I'm getting into the payment under reverse charge. As I told, whenever for certain category of goods or services are received from unregistered or the dealer suppliers who are not registered, under such circumstances, the recipient of goods and services has to pay tax on the same. This is called payment under reverse charge. So it was brought in service tax by the central government in 1997. It was not there in Central Excise Act of the central government. Recipient of the services was made liable to pay tax. Similar provisions were there under Karnataka Sales Tax Act 1957 and KVAT Act 2003. We were having section 6 under KST Act, where whenever goods were purchased from unregistered dealer, the purchaser has to pay tax under section 6. And similarly under KVAT Act, Karnataka Value Added Tax, we were having section 3(2), where the purchases made from unregistered dealers were liable to tax in the hands of the recipient of the goods. Why it is brought, why the section 9(3) is brought means to cover large number of suppliers without bringing them into the ambit of registration. See, we have given 20 lakh as the limit, exemption limit for taking registration for services and 40 lakhs for goods. So quite a few number of dealers are unregistered and they need not have to take registration just for making payment of tax. And the recipient of goods and services from those dealers is liable to pay tax. He has to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism and claim input tax credit. So it is like balancing the unregistered small taxpayers against the registered taxpayers. Section 9(3) of the Act or section 5(3) of IGST Act empowers the government to specify the categories of goods or services or both for RCM. So government will specify which are the goods and services on which taxes has to be paid by the recipients only. It has to, and the important features of RCM is it has to be paid from cash ledger only. This is very important. See, reverse charge mechanism, taxes has to be paid from cash ledger. Section 49(4) of GST Act says payment can be made from credit ledger for making output tax credit. For making payment from cash ledger, there is no restrictions. But payment from credit ledger, you can make it for discharging the output tax credit. But please note, section 2, which is definition section 82 of section 2 defines output tax, and output tax is not inclusive of RCM, taxes payable under RCM charge. It is not considered as output tax as per the definition of output tax under GST Act. RCM, reverse charge mechanism tax, is a revenue neutral tax. I make payment of reverse charge under reverse charge mechanism and I will claim input tax. Section 9(4) is similar to 9(3). Here, a category of dealers are for making payment under RCM. The government issued notification number 4 of 2017, dated 28/6/2017, specifying RCM for goods. So certain goods, whenever they are sold by the supplier, they are not liable to tax and in the hands of supplier, but they are liable to tax in the hands of the purchaser, like cashew nuts. See, normally these are agricultural goods, cashew nuts, because they are sold by farmers who are normally URDs. So whenever a registered dealer purchases cashew, it is liable for tax under RCM. BD wrap leaves, tobacco leaves, and later on used vehicles by the government department was also inserted in this notification. Then cotton is also under 9(3) of GST Act for making payment under RCM. Then we have notification number 13 of 2017 specifying services on which RCM tax has to be paid under RCM, which covers mainly GTAs. Other services are provision of legal services, renting of premises by government department. See, GTAs, when GST was introduced, GTAs, goods transport agencies, or which we in the common parlance we call them transporters. So they are not liable for tax in their hands, or the service recipient has to pay tax under RCM category. This was covered under notification number 13 of 2017. So I am getting little detail in of the GTA transactions. For GTA, goods transport agency transactions, mainly it covers about 8 to 9 notifications which are as under. See, what is the transportation of goods by road? And transportation of goods by road except goods transport agencies and courier is exempted under GST. Serial number 18 of notification number 12 clearly says, other than GTA and courier, the service is exempted. What is GTA? See, GTA is not defined under section 2 of GST Act, which I read previously. It is given at the explanation in notification number 11. One who provides services of transportation of goods by road and issues consignment note by whatever name is called GTA, goods transport agency. We come across registered dealers who are providing only GTA services, like transporters, or who are doing other businesses and providing GTA services, like petrol pump owners owning oil tankers and URD GTAs. Entry serial number 9 of notification number 11, which is SAS 9965 or Service Accounting Code or HSN 9965, rate of tax was 5% till 22/8/2017. When GST was introduced, the tax levied on GTA services was 5%. And similarly, supporting services of GTA were also liable for tax at 5% till 22/8/2017. Please note, GTAs need not have, goods transport agencies need not have to take registration even if their turnover is exceeding rupees 20 lakhs. See, if I am a GTA, I am a goods transport agency supplier, and I am supplying goods to the exclusively registered dealers or a category of dealers, people who are notified, then I need not have to take registration even if my turnover exceeds 20 lakhs. The notification number 5 of 2017 is very clear in this. This has to be read with notification number 13 of 2017. The notification number 13 I referred previously. It specifies the services on which taxes have to be paid under RCM basis, that is reverse charge basis. And also to be read with notification number 20 of 2017. which gave forward charging at 12% with ITC. It was introduced from 22/8/2017. See, till 22/8/2017, the rate of tax was 5% on GTA, and it was reverse on reverse charge basis. The category of dealers were paying the same. 12% was introduced from 22/8/2017. As I told, notification number 13 and serial number 1, first entry list services on which liability is notified under section 9(3). It says category of dealers have to pay tax under RCM whenever they receive services from GTAs. 7 categories of persons, including registered dealer and casual taxable persons, were included under serial number 1 of the notification number 13. For registered dealers and unregistered dealer, the rate of tax was 5% till 22/8/2017 without availing ITC by GTAs. So at that time, ITC was not eligible for GTAs even if they purchase like goods transport vehicles. Till 22/8/2017, ITC was not allowed. From 22/8/2017, forward charging at 12% was allowed and ITC was also allowed. With ITC, they can claim 12%. Without ITC, it is 5%. Both are available even now. After the amendment, even 5% is continued, but it is without availing ITC, 12% with ITC. Recipient of services was always eligible to claim ITC of GST paid on street services. Notification number 32 of 2017, dated 13/10/2017, insert entry number 21A in notification number 12 of 17, which is exempted services notification. It exempts GTA services provided to unregistered dealers. So any common man, if they is availing GTA services, then that service is exempted from GST. Notification number 13 lists 7 category of dealers who have to make payment under RCM. This I have dealt previously. In notification number 13, any casual taxable person is under reverse charge mechanism. As per notification number 32, only registered casual. So this was amended with notification number 32. So after that, only registered casual taxable person remains under RCM. That means only registered casual taxable person has to make payment of tax under RCM whenever he receives services from goods transport agencies. As per notification number 13 of 2017, I was telling these 7 category of persons have to make payment under RCM basis only. Which are those 7 category of persons? A factory, a society, a cooperative society, any body corporate, any partnership form have to take this is compulsory registration under 24(3) if they are receiving services from GTA. See, 24(3) is compulsory registration. I mean, those category of persons listed therein have to take compulsory registration if they are involved in those transactions. URDs were not in the ambit of this provision prior to notification number 32, and they have to absorb GST then. Afterwards, after notification number 32, they are exempted. Dealers registered under KGST Act, like petrol bunks providing GTA services to oil marketing companies. The oil marketing companies have to make RCM if GTA is charging at 5%. See, when this forward charging at 12% was introduced, the notification number 13 was amended. Because it says whenever the registered dealer receives GTA service, it has to make RCM. But when it was allowed the GTAs to collect tax, there would have been a situation where double taxation was those services were subjecting to double taxation. So when forward charging was introduced from 22/8/2017, notification number 13 of 17 was amended. It said no RCM if the GTA who is a registered is charging 12% GST, so that the GTA can claim input tax limit. Registered GTAs providing services to those 7 categories which I dealt previously, like factory, cooperative society, if opted at 5%, recipient has to make RCM. where to declare the GTA turnover in 3B? This was a question when GST was introduced. So it has to be declared exempted or nil rated. Recipients of services who make RCM have a option in R1. In their R1, they have to say declare inward supply is liable for RCM because they have to make payment from cash ledger, as I said previously, as provided in section 49.4 read with rule 85. So as per the condition laid for entry number 9 of notification number 11 as amended by notification number 20, if GTA opting to avail ITC and discharge GST at 12%, previously there was no option, a condition is inserted there. It says provided that GTA opting to pay CGST at 6% under this entry shall thenceforth be liable to pay CGST at 6% on all earlier. If a GTA is opting for 12%, then it has to remain in 12% only. It has to collect 12% on services provided by it. It can utilize input tax credit and make payment. It cannot avail both. If it is making payment to a company, it cannot say, I will charge 5%, you make RCM payment. No, you are not permitted. If you are collecting 12%, you have to collect 12% and on all the transactions of transactions on where you are providing services. If you are opting for 5%, you have to be under 5% and the recipient will be paying 5% tax if they are falling under those categories. A GTA can opt for GST at 5% without availing any ITC or 12% with ITC on inward supplies but cannot opt for both. Then tax invoice for claiming input tax. Yeah. It is defined under section 31. It is not defined. Section 31 prescribes when a tax invoice has to be levied, has to be issued before or at the time or in any other case itself. So whenever you are supplying the goods, you have to raise a tax invoice before you are removing the goods or at the time you are removing the goods. Other particulars as may be prescribed. Rule 46 says how the tax invoices and credit notes, what are the details it should contain. 46Q says signature or digital signature in case of export of goods endorsement. Rule 138A, see whenever goods are moved on road, the government can prescribe some other documents in addition to invoice. So that other document is, one is invoice, the other document is e-way bill where the value of transaction is more than 50,000. And rule 48 is manner of issuing invoice. It should be prepared in duplicate, the original for recipient, duplicate for transporter and triplicate for supplier. So duplicate for transporter, meant for transporter, should be carried with the goods vehicle and it should be tendered for verification whenever the GST authorities, state GST authorities or central GST authorities intercept that vehicle and they ask for the documents. Otherwise, the vehicle can be detained and they will take actions under section 129 and 130. Thank you very much. With this, I have covered input tax credit, restrictions for availing input tax credit, reversal, blocking of input tax credit, reverse charge mechanism, payment of tax under input, reverse charge mechanism, and goods transport agencies in detail. Thank you. If you have any doubt, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for the presentation. Thanks for elaborating over.
Okay.
A sell goods to B on credit on 1st August, but B decided to pay the invoice amount later on. So now, while filing the GST return for August 2020, can Mr. A can claim the input tax credit?
Please repeat.
A sell goods to Mr. B on credit on 1st August. But Mr. B decide to pay the invoice amount later on.
Okay.
Now, while filing the GST return for August 2020, can Mr. B can claim the input tax credit?
Yeah, we can claim input tax credit. See, whether it is cash or credit, it is a business transaction. But under GST, we have one restriction that within 180 days, the recipient of goods or services has to make full payment to the supplier. If it is not paid within 180 days, then the recipient has to reverse the input tax credit. So for August 2020, B can claim input tax credit. He can make payment subsequently within 180 days.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is one more question, sir. What is the time limit for taking ITC, sir?
Yeah, the time limit is for the financial year of 2020, starting from April 2020, March 2021, September 2021. That is 20th October. Input tax can be claimed in any of the returns filed there.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is one more question, sir. If a person buy a vehicle for transportation of goods, but later he started dealing in car and buying car for reselling it, whether he can avail the ITC?
Yeah, say as long as he is in the supply of services of goods transportation, as I dealt little detail during the end of my presentation.
Yes, sir.
If he is charging GST at 12%, he can claim input tax on the paid on the vehicles which he has purchased for transportation of goods. And when he stops that business, he has to reverse the input tax credit, whatever is there in the balance credit in his credit ledger. And on the used cars or new cars, when he is buying them for making a sale, he can utilize input tax credit on.
Thank you, sir. So there is one more question, sir. When is reverse charge is applicable? Reverse charge.
Yeah, reverse charge is applicable for few category of goods or services which are notified by the government saying whenever these goods are purchased by a registered dealer, so the dealer who is receiving the goods has to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. Only for those categories. Till October 2017, any goods or services received by a registered dealer was liable for RCM. But thereafter, it was suspended and later it was exempted. Now it is only those notified goods, for example, cashew nut, cotton, tobacco leaves. If they are purchased by a registered dealer, then registered dealer has to make tax under RCM. And services like goods transport agency services, when a registered dealer receives those services and the GTA provider charges 5%, not charging 12%, then the recipient of services has to make payment under RCM. Otherwise, in all other circumstances, RCM is not.
Thank you, sir. So, sir, is there any amendments that can be applicable for this COVID-19 or any changes they are asking, sir, in input credit?
No, there are many changes.
They are asking in the agriculture sector, sir.
Government has issued quite a few notifications. If I have one big PPT on that. There are like time limit. If the turnover of a dealer is less than 5 crore, the due date was extended for February, March, April returns till June 24th. And after that also with concessional rate of interest, it is extended. And above 5 crore turnover dealer also concessional rate is given. Due date is not extended, but only concessional rate of interest is given. So quite a few concessions have been given to cope up with the COVID-19.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the feedback and questionnaires, whatever the questions. I hope everyone got clarity on the input tax credit, sir. So before we conclude, is there anything you want to share, sir, with the participants?
Okay, GST is a very wide subject, but as we are saying, it is a seamless flow of credit and it is a transaction-based taxation system, and GST is online taxation system where everything has to be on the portal. We have GST portal, that is www.gst.gov.in. There the dealer will log in. Right from registration, return filing and deregistration, everything goes online. So the participants can access any information any notification, any circular on the web. Everything is available online. Even we have our own Karnataka GST web. You can just click in Google GST Karnataka. Our website, our department, CTD Commercial Tax Department website will open. You will get all the notification, all the circular, act, rules, everything. You need not have to buy any rule book, any act book, any notification, any circular. Everything is available on the system.
Thank you,
So
sir.
you can utilize it very well, and you can equip yourself to face the scenario or to face the market.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. And all our participants are very much happy with the feedback response, whatever they have given. It's very informative session, and they would like to take in future also same type of webinar from you also. If time permits, please have a time for
Thank
this.
you. I hope I was clear, because it is a little bit. We have lot of notification after the introduction of GST. Almost every day we are having new notifications, new amendment. So it's a vast subject, and it is confusing also for those who are fresh to the subject. They might have faced little hard nut. I'm sorry, but I tried my best. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And thank you for all our participants for the success of today's webinar. I hope everyone got benefited by today's session.